Welcome to my channel. It's me, Jessica B. Aidinan, a third-year college student of Baguio Central University, taking up Business Administration, major in Human Resource Development Management. For today's topic, we're going to discuss about decision-making in relation with management. The topics that we are going to discuss for today is concentrated mostly on the important ones. History of decision-making. Let's talk about Chester Bernard. He was a retired telephone executive, author of The Functions of the Executive. He was the one who imported the term decision-making from lexicon of public administration into the business world. In their times, they used the term resource allocation, which means assigning the right assets to use in the achieving of goals, and policy making, which means process of formulating policies to be implemented. And when the term decision making was coined, they decided to change it to better understanding on how it works. From that time, managers changed their thoughts about what did they do and encourage a new and fresh actions and desire from conclusiveness. Later on, Chester Barnard, James March, Herbert Simon, and Henry Mintzberg developed a foundation for the study of managerial decision-making. They found out that in organizations, decision-making is like a ripple in the water, that every time problems keeps on occurring, there is an insufficient decision-making of managers. So, after knowing the history, let's discuss now what decision-making really is. Definition of decision-making. According to Trewatha and Newport, they define decision-making as it involves the selection of a course of action from among two or more possible alternatives in order to arrive at a solution for a given problems. In here, which means that in every problem, you look out for the different alternatives that best fits and select the best one that can fit the problem that you're trying to solve. For example, you are a manager and you are to decide if you are going to fire your employee because of his always 5 minutes late, but then he is one of your best employees. Are you just going to fire him directly? What if firing him is losing an asset? That's why, as manager, you can take actions such as reprimand him, give him warning, talk to him, ask his reasons why he is always late, and from there on, you can be able to retain one asset of your company rather than firing him. So let's see now what is decision making in an organizational concept. Always note that decision making needs the right kind of information, wherein you must see to it that as a manager, that the information you have or you gather is connected or in line with what you are achieving. You must have a complete information. For you to come up with better decisions, you have to see to it that you have a complete and accurate information and the ability to synthesize and make sense of the information. You have also to look out that that from the informations you gather, you must make something out of it and prioritize the important one until the least important informations. We have the term asymmetries of information, which indicates how incomplete and insufficient information leads to poor decisions and wrong choices. Wherein, if you are a manager, who is always uses partial information or faulty information in comes to decision making, then you have analysis paralysis, a term for poor decision making skills. In short, decision making in an organizational context is that the manager or decision makers must have the right to have legitimacy and authority over who he decides upon, because results will only show when they also follows. So let's go to the types of decision making, there is programmed decisions and non-programmed decisions. In programmed decisions, these are the decisions that occur frequently enough that we develop an automated response, or we call decision rule, to them. For example, as a manager, you are always encountering latecomers as a routine part of your work. That's why in dealing with it every end of the month, you have decided to have an attendance check as a policy, that those who commit 3 late will be deducted 1 day's salary, and those who don't have late will receive an incentives. So that is an example of programmed decisions. The second type is the non-programmed decisions, wherein these decisions that are unique and important, that requires conscious thinking, information gathering, and careful consideration of the alternatives. For example, your company do not tolerate late employees because you believe that it will destroy the company's competitiveness. That's why you keep on firing employees without proper process. But then you have realized that you are losing a lot of potential assets, and you are going the line of the rights of the employees. That's why instead of firing them directly, you will implement a policy that when they still abide from it and they don't follow it, they would be fired directly with proper process. So let's go now to decision making models. There are 4. So let's start with the first one, which is rational decision making model. It is a series of steps that decision makers should consider if goal is to maximize the quality of their outcomes. In other words, if you want to make sure you make the best choice, rational decision making model may be the right choice you can use. Number 2, bounded rationality decision making model. Management limit their options to a manageable set and choose the best alternatives without conducting an exhausting search for alternatives. It is mostly where management already choose the first alternative from all the alternatives as the best choice, which can save time and effort. The third is the intuitive decision-making model. Refers to arriving at decisions without conscious reasoning. Mostly manager uses this model, especially in times of unexpected conditions that needed a fast response, because they don't decide between 2 or more options and choose the best one, but then they consider only one option at a time. Lastly, the creative decision-making model. It is a vital part of being an effective decision maker is creativity, which it is a generation of new and imaginative ideas. With the flattening of organizations and intense competition among them, then they are driven to be creative in decisions, ranging from cutting costs to creating new ways of doing the business. So, indeed, individual decision making. In here, individuals have a tendency to think and question before performing. It is where you yourself is the one who makes decision making without anyone else. So let's see the advantages and disadvantages. Advantages is generally makes prompt decisions. wherein no more lot of talks and decisions to be discussed. Number 2, do not escape responsibilities. You will easily pinpoint who is accountable to the acts and performance. 3, saves time, money, and energy. As a manager, you have to see to it that you doesn't want to have wastage. That's why you give prompt and logical decisions easily. 4, more focused and rational. You can directly think of what your decisions are. And the disadvantages are less accurate information. You only decide on your own without the help of others. 2, making your own intuition and views. You have lack of resources to get information, and ending, you're making it on your own. 3, unrecognized hidden talent and core competencies. No one will be noticing you how good you are on things you only know. 4, will not take considerations on every member's interests. In here, you do not care on who will be affected of the decisions you are going to decide. Corporate decision making. It happens at various levels in organizations and can be top down or bottom up. In here, decisions are being made as a whole and everyone is involved, wherein mostly are the higher ups decides and passed down to the middle management to be implemented. Middle management, they are also called sandwich. Why? Because they are the ones who implement the decisions above, and at the same time, they have to decide about how to run the teams and have to communicate to the lower levels. But we have also to note that corporate decision making is successful as long as there is a glue to bind the organization together. The glue is it's either the charismatic leaders or an organizational culture that values coherence and imposes stability. Let's go to decision making and hierarchy. So let's see the centralization and decentralization. Wherein centralization, it is a process in which activities involving planning and decision making within an organization are concentrated to a specific leader, which is the top management. In here, all the decision makers are only the top management, and after that, they disseminate it to the lower levels to be implemented. And there are disadvantages and disadvantages of centralization. Advantages number 1 is clear chain of command. Every employee knows who they will follow because there is only one leader who gave orders and decisions. Second, focused mission. It is where there is a clear lines of communication and the senior executives can communicate the organization's vision to employees and guide them toward the achievement of the vision. Third, reduce costs. It is because there is one decision maker, there is no need to deploy or to have another decision makers to make decisions. Fourth, quick implementation of decisions. We can see that involvement of only few people makes the decision-making process more efficient since they can discuss the details of each decision in one meeting. The fifth advantages is improved quality of work. Having a standardized procedures and better supervision that ensures the output are uniform and high quality. Let's go to disadvantages. First is bureaucratic leadership. It resembles a dictatorial form of leadership where employees are only expected to deliver results according to what the top management assigned them. Second, remote control, wherein because the top management are the ones who create decision making, therefore they don't know if it really works for the company because they are lack of control over the implementation process. Third, delays in work. It is where employees rely only on the information communicated to them from the top management. Then there will be a loss in man hours if there are delays in relaying the records from top management to lower level managements. 4. Lack of employee loyalty. Because as an employee, you can see that there is no initiative in work because employees perform tasks conceptualized by top executives only. Let's go to decentralization. It is where selected middle level management and lower levels are assigned to create decision making. In here, those who are mostly involved on the day-to-day activity in the company have the right to be involved in the decision making because they know what were the problems that needs to be solved, and there is advantages and advantages of it. Advantage number 1 is it allows middle to lower authorities to participate in the decision making. Number 2, allows employee to show their creativity and skills. It can bring up employee for their power and independence. 3, quick response in decision making. It is because they have authority, they can take ownership of the required action and implementation. 4. Motivate employees. It is because employees can feel that they are welcome to be part of the decision making. They can be able to show their skills without interference from the top management. The disadvantages are costly. It is because many employees are required to be hired according to their work experiences and knowledge. Employees who are eligible for the job position. Number 2, no uniformity. It is because there are many authorized managers who give decisions. That's why employees do not know who they will follow. Let's go to decentralization. It is where selected middle level management and lower levels are assigned to create decision making. In here, those who are mostly involved on the day-to-day activity in the company have the right to be involved in the decision making because they know what were the problems that needs to be solved, and there is advantages and advantages of it. Advantage number 1 is it allows middle to lower authorities to participate in the decision making. Number 2, allows employee to show their creativity and skills. It can bring up employee for their power and independence. 3, quick response in decision making. It is because they have authority, they can take ownership of the required action and implementation. 4, motivate employees. It is because employees can feel that they are welcome to be part of the decision making. They can be able to show their skills without interference from the top management. The disadvantages are costly. It is because many employees are required to be hired according to their work experiences and knowledge. Employees who are eligible for the job position. Number 2, no uniformity. It is because there are many authorized managers who give decisions. That's why employees do not know who they will follow. So let's see now what is the difference of top-down versus bottom-up decision making. Top-down decision making, it is where the top management gives orders and decisions to the middle level management. that they need to follow and implement. For example, CEO is sitting on the top of the company, telling those at the middle management about how it is the best way to serve the customers. While bottom-up decision making, it is where the middle management makes the decision making at the same time it can directly implements it. For example, those at the middle management makes the strategies on what is the best way to serve their customers and attract more customers. You have to think that bottom-up decision-making works well when the day-to-day running of the business, while the top-down decision-making is concentrated on the strategic acquisitions and firm-wide policy making. So let's see now what are the factors affecting decision-making. First is certainty. All the information the manager needs is fully available, for such as information on operations, managements, financial that needs to be solved. Second is risk. Decision has clear-cut goals and that good information is available, but the future outcomes associated with each alternative are subject to some chance of loss or failure. However, if manager is prepared with all the informations and clear on what he is aiming, then it will go around. Third, uncertainty. Managers know which goals they wish to achieve, but information about alternatives and future events is incomplete. Factors may be unseen coming that affects decision, is such as price increase, product pricing, product costs, or volume that is difficult to analyze. Fourth factor is ambiguity. Goals to be achieved or the problem to be solved is unclear. Alternatives are difficult to define and information about outcomes is unavailable, wherein some managers do not want to do decision making because they disagree on what they want, wherein because of the different priority, they give less priority on the decision making. Let's see now what is decision making in self-directed teams. It is often practiced to give autonomy to many teams and let them take the decisions that affect their day-to-day affairs as well as some strategic issues. This will become a great opportunity to every managers to take decisions on how they will handle everyday operations of the business. Also, this is more liked by many managers since there is greater freedom and greater say over their affairs and rank and file employees as well as these teams because it gives them greater control over their work. Although senior management sometimes goes against the middle management and to the self-directed teams. If we can see, decision making in self-directed teams must be encouraged without ceding complete control over the larger areas of policies and strategies. Conflict resolution and decision making. Any decisions taken at any level have to take into account the conflicting needs of the individuals who are affected by the decisions, and hence conflict resolution is a part of decision-making process. Always remember that everyone has a different decision and say on one problem that leads to conflicts. That's why it is important to hear out everyone. Consensual decision-making ensures that most concerns of the different groups are heard and taken into account, wherein every organization, there are scarce of resources that needs to be allocated among competing groups, and hence the decision maker has to ensure that all the needs and concerns of the different groups are taken into considerations when making the decision making. So let's see now what are the different steps in decision making process. First is curious observation. When you are someone who is eager to know something from what you have observed, then you will probably make sure to know everything about it. Second, existence of the problem. You have to identify what are the problems being encountered in your organizations. You cannot come up with decision making without a problem. Third, goals and planning. You have to set what is your plans and goals of you doing your decision making. What is the objective of your decision making? Fourth, search, explore, and gather the evidence. It is where you will be searching informations that you need in your decision making and make sure that everything is accurate and complete. Fifth, generate creative and logical alternative solutions. From your collected information, you are to create different alternatives or options that can be a possible solution for your problem. 6. Evaluate the evidence. Check every provided evidence if it can help you to be able to decide, and make sure that you are not a one-sided listener wherein you have to listen in the different side of the stories. 7. Make the educated guess. From your evidence and information collected, create your own hypothesis or your own belief from this collected data. 8. Challenge the hypothesis. You have to compare your hypothesis and see what are the conflicts and the accepted ones. 9. Reach a conclusion. From there, you are to decide and choose the best alternative or option for your problem. 10. Suspend judgment. You have to decide from what must be done with moral and ethical considerations. Lastly, 11. Take action. You are to implement and make the decisions into actions for the problem to be solved. In here, also, you could see if the decisions you have created will be beneficial or not. Let's see now what are the factors influencing decision-making process. Number 1, personal factors includes past experiences and individual differences, wherein sometimes because of the different point of views or perspectives into something and includes their experiences, it becomes a reason to conflict or go against during the decision-making process. Number 2, organizational factors includes the setup of rules and regulations of the organization, wherein sometimes the present implemented rules and regulations of the organization may conflict to decision-making process. That's why some managers prefer to make adjustments to everything so that it could fit into the organization. Number 3, social factors includes the culture and subculture, social class, reference group, and family. From these factors, during the decision-making process, the managers must see to it that they consider this so that it won't give any conflicts to it. 4. Environmental factors. This is concentrately on technological changes, wherein in this they must consider the fast evolving and developing in technologies so that they can cope up and improve their decision making. 5th, behavioral factors, values and personality. In decision making process, it is important to set aside your own behavior so that you can come up with something that is great. Let's see now decision making in uncertain world. By drawing up scenarios that consist of stimulations of the best case situation and worst case situation, the managers would be able to take right decisions when the situation manifests itself. In here, it is really impossible to decide for the future. That's why it is important to create possible scenarios that might happen in the future so that you can be able to create decisions and possible solutions and alternatives. For example, you are a manager, and because of the fast technological changes, you must come up with decisions and alternatives of a new approach in terms of managing the business, for such as using upgraded computer setups, fast internet connections, develop systems that in this way you are prepared to cope up with the changes. Let's see now decision making at the time of crisis. Managers face the difficult task of returning high profits in a time of inflationary pressures. This means that your company has to grow more than the prevailing rate of your inflation if real returns have to be made. Just for example, when your inflation rate is 10%, then the growth rate must be more than that. Managers also face the dilemma of rising costs of inputs, increased taxation, and competition from around the world. It means that during situations like this, the government is raising the taxes, leading to an input costs go up while competing in lower wage and lower cost companies. Then managers must see to it that the decisions is either increase bottom line numbers by increasing revenues and making more profits or cut costs to increase the profitability of their companies. For example, during this COVID-19 pandemic, decision makers must create a plan for a long term because we don't know when the pandemic ends. Decision makers also includes different new strategies on during this pandemic on how they will still be competitive with others. Let's see decision making in a confusing world. Have you ever experienced that after a long day, you are bombarded with all kinds of facts, opinions, news, and views? But then the question is, how are you going to decide on anything to do with your daily lives without missteps and misjudgments? Decision making in a confusing world is very tough. That's why we will look out strategies and tips on how to arrive at a decision. First strategy, one must trust the source but must verify the facts. In here, we must not be contented to what is just present as informations, but then we must double check the different data that you have collected, and if possible, do not rely only on the one source. Second, defer the decision without delaying. This means that you must have the ability to defer the decisions without rushing into judgment and at the same time without delaying it too much. Third, keep your eyes wide open and listen to the boots on the ground. One must actively seek information and knowledge from others and actively seek feedback and listen to the employees. The best decision makers are those who equip themselves with the necessary knowledge and have the information about the issues. Let's see importance of culture in business decisions and its implications for all. It is a trend now that most global firms operate in glocal manner. What is glocal manner? Glocal manner or approach It is where they reach out global clients at the same time work with the local mindset, wherein they are increasingly hiring local hands to run their operations worldwide so as to ensure that such people have expertise and experience to deal with the cultural issues that might arise due to their operations in different countries. Also, do not retreat from globalization. It is important to take into account cultural fits and cultural factors at the same time, not lose the essence of globalization. It was because globalization that the Asian middle class prospered, also the Chinese, Indians, and Africans. In here, we can see that glue is the culture that holds nation and firms together. It is a fact that the culture that one grows in and one take as one's identity is a powerful motivator for performance, and there will be a harmony within. The promise and perils of technology-driven decision-making for business leaders. Machines can aggregate large datasets and sift and parse through patterns and models that would lead to optical decision-making. In here, we can see that technology can make the decision makers to create decisions with easier way. The promise. Algos make better decisions when speed is the essence and time is the constraint. In the book of Bill Gates, Business at the Speed of Thought, machines can really help us in making our world a much more efficient place. Second, upcoming Internet of Things, IoT, wherein we are going to be connected to one gigantic web that can make our lives much easier. 3. Apple Siri on their iPhones or Amazon's Alexa in their homes, it would be evident that such connectedness can make us feel better. But there are perils. Number 1. Bias algos in recruitment for Amazon, wherein they think that programs such as algos can be used for bad purposes. Second, series of mishaps and accidents. It is mostly in the sectors of aviation to manufacturing, which includes software glitches and machine failures. 3. Losing jobs. Because it can be seen that one day human labor would be lessened because machines can do the work. In other words, there is a need to strike a balance between how much technology is optimal and how far humans should let go of their privacy. Why digital age demands decision makers to be like elite marines and Zen monks. Decision making is like you are going into a war zones, wherein every moves and decisions you take is very critical. And let's see some scenarios of it. Number 1, look out for potential minefields of disinformations and fake news that can derail or worse, destroy the credibility of decision makers and their firms. It was like in a war zone, wherein you have to watch out for minefields and booby traps when you patrol in your enemy territories. Number 2, reflexes and the response times have to be coordinated in split seconds. Decision makers have to think and act in manner. Number 3, agility and quick thinking. Decision makers must decide in quick response that the time lag between their decisions and their consequences is measured in minutes and hours, not on days and months. So that was the topic about decision making in relation with management. Thank you for listening. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!